I should have known something was wrong when Taehyun ordered jasmine tea instead of his usual black coffee. It was such a small thing. The kind of detail you might not even register in the moment. We were at our favorite cafe, the one near my kindergarten where we'd been having Saturday morning dates for the past 2 years. The barista even knew our orders by heart. "The usual for you too?" she'd always ask with that knowing smile. But that morning, 3 months ago, Taehyun said, "Actually, I'll have the jasmine tea today." I remember looking at him, a little surprised. "Since when do you drink tea? You always say it tastes like hot leaf water." He'd smiled at me, that same gorgeous smile that made me fall for him in the first place, and shrugged. "People change, Jaiwia. Maybe I'm becoming more sophisticated." I laughed it off. People do change. Especially when you've been together as long as we had. 2 years of loving Park Taehyun, and I thought I knew everything about him. His terrible singing in the shower, the way he'd scrunch his face when concentrating on architectural designs, how he always reached for me in his sleep like he needed to confirm I was still there. But looking back now, that tea was just the first sign. The first crack in a reality I didn't know was already shattered. The changes came slowly after that. Little things that felt off but not quite wrong enough to worry about. His cologne smelled different sometimes, spicier, more intense. When I mentioned it, he said he was trying a new brand. Made sense. Men do that. Then there were the passwords. One night about 2 months ago, I tried to unlock his phone to change the music while he was driving. We'd always known each other's passcodes. It was never a thing. But his phone didn't open. "Did you change your password?" I asked, confused. He glanced at me quickly, then back at the road. "Oh yeah. Work security policy. They made everyone update their codes." "Sorry, let me." He'd unlocked it himself and handed it to me. Another reasonable explanation. I was a kindergarten teacher, not a detective. Why would I question my boyfriend of 2 years? But the biggest change was in the way he touched me. About 6 weeks ago, after he returned from one of his business trips to Busan, something shifted. When he kissed me that first night back, there was a hunger to it I'd never felt before. An intensity that made my knees weak and my heart race in a way that was thrilling and slightly terrifying at the same time. We made love that night and it felt different. His hands explored my body like he was trying to memorize every inch of me. Like he'd been starving for me. The Taehyun I knew was gentle, sweet, considerate. This was raw, consuming, desperate. "I missed you so much," he'd whispered against my neck, and something in his voice made my stomach flip. Not in a bad way, just in a way I couldn't quite identify. "I missed you too," I'd whispered back, pushing away the strange feeling settling in my chest. Afterward, as we lay tangled in my sheets, he held me differently too. Tighter. Like I might disappear if he let go. "Taehyun," I'd said into the darkness. Is everything okay?" "You seem, I don't know. Different." He'd been quiet for a moment. "Just work stress. And wedding planning. It's a lot." We'd gotten engaged 3 months ago. A beautiful proposal at Namsan Tower, exactly where I dreamed it would happen. He'd known because I told him on our third date, back when I was still nervous and oversharing everything. The wedding planning had been mostly me and my best friend Minseo handling details while Taehyun traveled for work. He was working on some major project in Busan, commuting back and forth every few weeks. Architecture was demanding like that. But he'd promised to be more present. Said after this project wrapped up, we'd focus on us, on the wedding, on our future. I wanted to believe him. 2 weeks ago, I was doing laundry, his laundry, because he'd stayed over and left in a rush for an early meeting. I found a business card in his jacket pocket while emptying the pockets before washing. Park Seojun. Investment banking. JS Capital Partners. I stared at it, confused. Taehyun was an architect. Why did he have a business card with a different name? A different profession entirely? When he came over that evening, I showed it to him. "Who's Park Seo-jun?" The color drained from his face for just a second. Just 1 second. Then he recovered, taking the card from my hand. He's my twin brother." I blinked. "You're what?" "My identical twin brother. We're estranged. Have been for years." In 2 years of dating, he'd never mentioned a twin brother. Never mentioned any brother at all. I knew he had a complicated family situation. He rarely talked about his parents, said it was too painful. I'd never pushed because everyone has their wounds. You have a twin brother, I repeated slowly. And you never thought to mention this? We had a falling out before I met you. We don't speak. I didn't think it was relevant. He'd pulled me into his arms, kissed the top of my head. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. It's just painful. Someday I'll explain everything. I promise. I let it go. That's what you do when you love someone, right? You give them space for their pain. You trust them to open up when they're ready. But that night, after he left, I couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong. Like puzzle pieces that didn't quite fit together no matter how hard you tried to force them. The next morning, I called him to talk about it more. We were getting married. We shouldn't have secrets. But when he answered, his greeting felt off. Hey baby, he'd said. Remember last week when we watched that documentary about architecture in Barcelona? I was thinking we could incorporate some of those elements into our house plans. What documentary? He'd interrupted. I don't remember watching that. My heart skipped. Taehyun, we watched it together. On your couch. You made popcorn and burned it, remember? Silence. Sorry. I've been so distracted with work. Of course I remember. But he didn't. I could hear it in his voice. That's when the real anxiety started creeping in. That's when I started paying closer attention to everything. The way he'd sometimes not recognize stories I referenced from our past. How he'd occasionally seem surprised by my habits, like he was learning them for the first time. I told myself I was being paranoid. Stressed about the wedding. Overthinking because of pre-marriage jitters. Then, 5 days ago, I started feeling nauseous. At first I thought it was just nerves, but when it continued for 3 days straight, I began to suspect something else. Yesterday morning, before my kindergarten class started, I stopped at a pharmacy. My hands shook as I bought the pregnancy test, my heart hammering against my ribs. I took it in the staff bathroom during my lunch break, sitting on the closed toilet lid while 5-year-olds played outside. 2 lines appeared, dark and unmistakable. I was pregnant. 6 weeks, maybe more. I counted back, trying to remember. It had to be that night 6 weeks ago, the intense night after his Busan trip. The night that felt so different. I stared at those 2 lines until they blurred with my tears. Happy tears, I told myself. Scared tears. Overwhelmed tears. I was going to be a mother. Taehyun and I were going to have a baby. That evening, I sat in my apartment with the test hidden in my purse, planning how to tell him. Something special. Something memorable. This was huge, life-changing. Despite all my recent weird feelings, this was our future materializing in the most beautiful way. I didn't know then that in less than 48 hours, everything I thought I knew about the past 6 months would crumble into dust. I didn't know that the man I'd made love to 6 weeks ago might not have been Park Taehyun at all. I didn't know that I'd been living in a carefully constructed lie, and the truth was so much worse than any anxiety I could have imagined. All I knew was that I was pregnant, and I needed to tell the man I loved. The question I should have been asking was, which man had I actually been loving? I spent an entire day planning the perfect reveal. Balloons. Not the tacky kind, but those elegant white and gold ones that spelled out baby in cursive. I ordered Taehyun's favorite takeout from that Italian place in Itaewon, the one we went to on our first anniversary. I even bought a tiny pair of baby shoes, yellow because we didn't know yet, and planned to put them in a gift box with the pregnancy test. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I arranged everything in my apartment. Mincio had helped me set up, squealing with excitement the entire time. He's going to die, she kept saying. In the best way. Oh my God, Jae, you're going to be a mom. I know, I'd whispered, touching my still flat stomach. I can't believe it. Does he suspect anything? I don't think so. I told him I wanted to have a special dinner tonight. That we needed to talk. Mincio had hugged me tight. This is the beginning of your beautiful family. I'm so happy for you. When Taehyun arrived at 7, I met him at the door. He looked tired. His tie was loosened, his hair slightly mussed like he'd been running his hands through it. But he smiled when he saw me, and my heart did that stupid flutter it always did. Hey, beautiful, he said, kissing my forehead. What's all this about? You sounded serious on the phone. Come sit down. I guided him to the couch, my heart hammering so hard I thought he might hear it. I have something to show you. I handed him the gift box with trembling hands. This was it. The moment that would change everything. The moment our lives would split into before and after. He opened it slowly, pulling out the tiny yellow baby shoes first. His brow furrowed in confusion. Then he saw the pregnancy test underneath, and all the color drained from his face. But not in the way I expected. He didn't look happy. He looked confused. Then panicked. Then something else I couldn't identify. His hands started shaking. Jai Wuai, he stood up abruptly, still holding the box. We need to talk. There's something I have to tell you. My stomach dropped. Those were not the words you wanted to hear when you told someone they were going to be a father. What do you mean? My voice came out small. Taehyun, I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby. I know, I see that, but there's something. His phone rang, cutting him off. He looked at the screen and cursed under his breath. I have to take this. It's work. Emergency with the Busan project. Taehyun. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll be right back and we'll talk about everything. I promise. Just let me handle this. He was already heading for the door, phone pressed to his ear. We'll figure this out. I just need to, I'll be back soon. The door closed behind him. I stood there in my apartment full of celebration decorations, holding tiny yellow baby shoes, completely alone. He didn't come back that night. Or the next morning. I called him 17 times. Each call went to voicemail. I texted until my fingers cramped. Nothing. Radio silence. By the second day, I'd moved past hurt into genuine fear. What if something had happened to him? What if he'd been in an accident? The emergency call, the way he'd rushed out. What if he was in trouble? Minseo tried to calm me down. He's probably just freaking out. Men do that with pregnancy news sometimes. He'll come around. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. The look on his face when he'd seen that test, it wasn't fear or shock. It was something else. Something that made my skin crawl when I replayed it in my mind. On the third day, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my spare key to his apartment and headed to Gangnam. My hands shook as I unlocked his door. Taehyun. I called out. Are you here? Please, I'm worried about you. Footsteps came from the bedroom. Relief flooded through me. He was okay. He was home. We could talk about this, figure it out together. But when he appeared in the doorway, something felt wrong. He looked at me with an intensity I'd seen before, that same consuming gaze from 6 weeks ago. That same hunger. But now, in the stark light of his apartment with fear and confusion clouding my mind, it felt different. Dangerous. You came, he said, and his voice was wrong too. The cadence was off, like an actor who'd almost but not quite nailed the accent. Of course I came. You disappeared. For 3 days, Taehyun. 3 days after I told you I'm pregnant with our baby. What the hell is going on? He moved closer and I instinctively stepped back. Something in my Omega instincts was screaming at me to run, but I couldn't understand why. This was Taehyun. My Taehyun. Except it wasn't. You're pregnant, he said. Not a question. A statement. His eyes dropped to my stomach with an possessiveness that made my skin prickle. Is it mine? I stared at him. What kind of question is that? Of course it's yours. Taehyun, are you having some kind of breakdown? Do we need to get you help? How far along? About 6 weeks. Why are you being so weird? You're scaring me. 6 weeks. Something flickered across his face. Satisfaction? Triumph? That night I came back from Busan. Yes. My voice wavered. The night you came home and Why are you talking like this? Like you don't remember? He was right in front of me now, close enough that I could smell his cologne. That spicier, more intense cologne. The one that wasn't quite right. I remember everything about that night, he said softly. Every sound you made. Every place I touched you. The way you said my name like a prayer. Stop it. Tears were burning in my eyes. Why are you being cruel? I don't understand what's happening. He reached out and cupped my face with both hands, his touch gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. I'm not Taehyun, he said quietly. I'm Seojun, his twin brother. And we need to talk about the last 6 months of your life. The world tilted. I jerked away from him so hard I stumbled backward into the wall. What? You're confused. You're Taehyun. You're my fiancé. Look at me, Jaiwoo. Really look at me. I did. Same face. Same height. Same build. Same everything. But now that he'd said it, I could see the differences. The way he stood, more rigid, more controlled. The coldness in his eyes that Taehyun never had. The slight differences in how he held his mouth, his shoulders. No, I whispered. This isn't possible. I've been switching places with my brother, Seo Jun said calmly, like he was discussing the weather. For the past 6 months. Not every time you saw him, just sometimes. Enough times. He paused. That night 6 weeks ago? That was me. The night you conceived our child. Our child. Not Taehyun's child. Our child. I was going to be sick. You're insane, I managed. This is insane. Where is Taehyun? Where is my actual boyfriend? He's in Busan. On his work project. He doesn't know you're pregnant yet. I haven't told him. I couldn't process this. My brain was short-circuiting. You've been pretending to be him? For 6 months. Not constantly. Just strategically. He moved to his couch and sat, gesturing for me to sit too. When I didn't move, he continued anyway. It started 6 months ago. I saw you two at a restaurant. The way you looked at him, the way you laughed, I couldn't stop thinking about it. About you. So you started stalking me? Learning about you, he corrected. Your schedule, your habits, your favorite things. It wasn't hard. You're very consistent, Jaiwoo. Every Saturday at Bean and Brew. Every Wednesday evening at the bookstore. Every Sunday morning at that little park near your apartment. I felt violated. Exposed. Like he'd been peeling back layers of my life without my knowledge or consent. Then I started switching places with him. Just for an hour here and there at first. I'd make sure he got held up somewhere, then I'd show up instead. You never knew the difference. That's impossible. I would have known. I would have. Would you? He tilted his head. Think about it. Think about the past 6 months. The times something felt slightly off. The times he seemed to know things he shouldn't, or didn't remember things he should have. The way his preferences changed. The way he touched you differently. The cologne. The password. The documentary he didn't remember. The intense night 6 weeks ago. Oh God. That's why you looked so confused when I showed you the test, I said slowly, pieces clicking together in the worst possible way. Because you didn't know I was pregnant. Because you haven't been. The real Taehyun hasn't been with me regularly enough to know you're carrying my child. Seo Jun finished. Yes. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the floor, my legs unable to hold me anymore. I'm going to be sick. I know this is a lot. A lot. I laughed, hysterical. You violated me. You had sex with me under false pretenses. You stole your brother's identity and the full horror of it hit me. I didn't consent to being with you. I consented to being with Taehyun. What you did, that's... I know. His voice was quiet. But I love you. I fell in love with you over these 6 months. Really love you, Jaiwoo. Not the version Taehyun sees, but the real you. You don't get to say you love me. Tears were streaming down my face now. Love doesn't do this. Love doesn't deceive and violate, and I wrapped my arms around my stomach protectively. Does Taehyun know? Seo Jun was quiet for too long. Does Taehyun? No. He's known for about a month. The room spun. What? He figured it out. We had a confrontation. I admitted everything. And he just let it continue? Let you keep pretending to be him? I felt like I was drowning. Why would he do that? You'd have to ask him. But something in Seojin's expression told me he knew exactly why. My phone rang. Minseo's name flashed on the screen. I answered it with shaking hands. Where are you? She demanded. I'm at your apartment with Soup and you're not here. He froze in the doorway. I'll stay here. I need to explain. Please. Explain. My voice was surprisingly steady. Explain how you let your brother pretend to be you for 6 months? Explain how you knew for a month and said nothing? Explain how you let me sleep with him thinking he was you. I didn't know about that part. His hands were shaking. I swear, Jae-woo, I didn't know that you two had. But you knew he was switching places with you. Taehyun's silence was answer enough. When did you figure it out? I demanded. He stepped into the apartment slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. Minseo positioned herself between us, protective. About 6 weeks ago, I started noticing things were off. You'd reference conversations I didn't remember. My apartment would be slightly rearranged. Then I found a receipt for the tea shop, Jasmine Tea, which I hate, on a day I'd supposedly been with you. 6 weeks ago. Right around the time everything had started feeling different. So I set up a camera, he continued, hidden in my apartment. And I caught him. Coming in with my spare key, going through my things, reading my messages to you on my laptop. His voice was hollow. I confronted him. He admitted everything. Said he'd been switching places with me, learning about you, spending time with you. And you just let it continue? I couldn't comprehend this. Why? Because I was curious. The words came out barely above a whisper. I wanted to see if you could tell the difference between us. If you'd notice. If you really knew me the way you said you did. I felt like he'd slapped me. You were testing me? I was testing myself, he corrected miserably. Testing whether what we had was real. Seo-jun has always been better than me at everything. Smarter, more successful, more confident. I was terrified that if you met him, really met him, you'd prefer him. So when he started impersonating me, I let it happen because I wanted to see if he could make you happier than I could. That's insane, Minseo said flatly. You're both insane. I know. Taehyun's eyes were fixed on me. I know it was wrong. I know I should have stopped it immediately. But I was weak and scared and stupid. And by the time I realized how badly I'd fucked up, it had already gone too far. Did you know about the night 6 weeks ago? My voice trembled. The night No. He looked like he might be sick. I swear I didn't know about that. I was actually in Busan that night. When Seo-jun told me what happened, I lost it. I punched him. Broke his nose. That's why you haven't seen him in person until the other day. He was healing. I sat back down heavily. My legs wouldn't hold me anymore. I'm pregnant, Taehyun. I know. Seo-jun told me. He moved closer, dropping to his knees in front of the couch. Minseo tensed but didn't stop him. And I don't care whose child it is biologically. I love you. I've loved you for 2 years. Whatever mistakes I made, that hasn't changed. You let someone else sleep with me. Tears were streaming down my face now. You let him touch me, kiss me, be intimate with me while I thought it was you. How am I supposed to forgive that? I don't know if you can, he admitted. But I'm begging you to try. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you. Oh. My phone rang. We all looked at it. Seo-jun's name flashed on the screen. I'd saved it after the confrontation just so I'd know when he was calling. Don't answer it, Taehyun said immediately. But something in me needed to hear what he had to say. Needed to understand how someone could do what he'd done and still claim to love me. I answered on speaker. Jae-woo, Seo-jun's voice filled the room. I need you to listen to me. I'm listening. My voice was cold. You have 2 minutes. I know what I did was wrong. I know I violated your trust, your consent, your entire sense of reality. But I need you to understand something. He paused. I fell in love with you. Really, genuinely fell in love. Not with an idea of you, but with the real you that I spent 6 months learning. You don't know me, I said. You know a version of me that you observed like some kind of experiment. I know you scrunch your nose 3 times when you're trying to solve a problem. I know you hum the Totoro theme song when you're cooking. I know you cry at the animal shelter commercials even though you try to hide it. I know you check on your kindergarten students' cubbies every morning to make sure they all have spare clothes because one kid having an accident and feeling ashamed breaks your heart. His voice was intense, passionate. I know you, Jae-woo. Maybe better than anyone. The specificity of it was chilling. All those little details, I'd never told anyone about most of them. He'd learned them by watching. By studying me like I was a subject in his personal research project. That's not love, Minseo interjected. That's obsession. Maybe, Seo-jun conceded. But the result is the same. I'm in love with her. And there's a chance, a very good chance, that the baby she's carrying is mine. Taehyun made a wounded sound. I've been with you more in the past 2 months than Taehyun has, Seo-jun continued. The timeline matches. The dates match. That night 6 weeks ago, the night you conceived, Taehyun was definitely in Busan. I have receipts, time stamps, security footage if you need it. That was me. I felt like I was going to throw up. Stop. Please stop. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to give you all the information so you can make an informed decision about what happens next. An informed decision? I laughed bitterly. You took away my ability to make informed decisions 6 months ago when you started lying to me. I know, and I can't undo that. But going forward, you deserve the truth. All of it. He took a breath. I want to be in this child's life. Whether Taehyun stays in the picture or not, whether you can ever forgive me or not, I want to be a father to my child. We don't know if it's your child, Taehyun said harshly. Then we'll do a paternity test. As soon as it's safe for the baby, we'll know for sure. But Jaewoo, Seo-jun's voice softened. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not apologizing for falling in love with you, even if how it happened was wrong. And I'm not going to pretend I don't want a chance with you. A chance? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You think after everything you've done, I'd actually choose you? I think you already have, he said quietly. Multiple times over the past 6 months. You just didn't know it was me you were choosing. The call ended. The three of us sat in silence, the weight of his words crushing the air from the room. Taehyun was crying. Actually crying, tears streaming down his face. Tell me what to do. Tell me how to fix this. But I didn't have an answer. Because the man I'd loved was broken. The man I'd been with was a stranger. And somewhere in between, I'd lost myself completely. I need to know, I said finally. I need to know whose baby this is. I need to know what's real and what isn't. My voice broke. I need to understand how any of this happened. We'll figure it out, Minseo said firmly. We'll get a paternity test. We'll get lawyers if we need to. We'll what? I looked at her desperately. Sue them for being identical twins? For the fact that I can't tell who I slept with on which night? For making me fall in love with 2 people who share the same face? The truth I hadn't wanted to admit hung in the air between us. Because that was the worst part of all of this. The part one hated myself for. Some of my favorite memories from the past 6 months. The intense passion, the deep conversations, the feeling of being truly seen and understood, those had been with Seo-jun. And I hadn't known. Hadn't been able to tell the difference. What did that say about my relationship with Taehyun? What did that say about me? I think you both need to leave, I said quietly. I need time. I need space. I need to figure out who I am outside of whatever game you two have been playing with my life. Taehyun stood up slowly. I love you, Jaewoo. That's real. That's always been real. After he left, I curled up on Minseo's couch and finally let myself completely break apart. Because the truth was, I didn't know what was real anymore. And I was carrying a baby whose father could be either the man I thought I loved, or the man who'd stolen his identity to love me. How do you choose between that? How do you even begin to heal? At 8 weeks pregnant, I could no longer pretend this wasn't happening. The morning sickness was relentless. My body was changing in small, undeniable ways. And every night, I dreamed of a baby with the Park family eyes, those distinctive almond-shaped eyes that both brothers shared, staring up at me while I desperately tried to figure out which father he belonged to. Minseo had finally convinced me to see Dr. Kang Yunho, an obstetrician she'd researched extensively. Someone who won't judge, she'd said. Someone who'll just help you figure this out medically. Dr. Kang had kind eyes and a gentle manner that made me feel slightly less like my life was a complete disaster. He'd confirmed what I already knew, healthy pregnancy, about 8 weeks along, due date in early December. And you want a paternity test? He'd said, not a question. He'd clearly dealt with complicated situations before. Just, as soon as it's safe. We can do a non-invasive prenatal paternity test at 9 weeks. It's a simple blood draw from you and cheek swabs from the potential fathers. No risk to the baby. He paused. Though I have to ask, are the potential fathers identical twins? My silence had been answer enough. That complicates things, he'd admitted. Identical twins share the same DNA. Standard paternity tests can't differentiate between them. We'll need specialized testing that looks at epigenetic markers and other factors. It's more expensive and takes longer, but it's possible. So here I was, 2 weeks later at 10 weeks pregnant, sitting in Dr. Kang's waiting room with both Park brothers on either side of me like the world's most awkward sandwich. Taehyun had arrived first, bringing my favorite ginger tea for the nausea. He'd been doing things like that constantly, showing up with crackers, prenatal vitamins, books about pregnancy, trying to prove he could be the father this baby needed, even if biology said otherwise. Seo-jun had arrived exactly on time, carrying a folder full of research about fetal development and parenting classes. Of course he'd done research. Of course he'd prepared like this was a business presentation. They sat on opposite sides of me, both careful not to touch, both radiating tension so thick I could barely breathe. You don't have to do this, Taehyun said quietly. We could just raise the baby together. Both of us. Does it really matter whose DNA it is? Yes, Seo-jun and I said simultaneously. Taehyun flinched. I need to know, I said, softer. I need to know what's real and what isn't. I need something in my life to be definite and true. When the nurse called my name, all three of us stood. She looked between the two identical men with barely concealed surprise, then at me with something like pity. The mother and potential fathers? She confirmed. Yes, I said, my cheeks burning. In the examination room, Dr. Kang maintained his professional demeanor even as he took cheek swabs from two men with the exact same face. I had my blood drawn while both brothers watched, each looking like they wanted to hold my hand but neither daring to try. Results will take about 2 weeks, Dr. Kang said. The lab we're using specializes in twin differentiation. They'll look at methylation patterns and other epigenetic markers that can differ even between identical twins. He looked at me kindly. Try not to stress too much. Stress isn't good for the baby. Don't stress. Because that was possible when your entire life was a nightmare. Outside the clinic, Seo-jun stopped me before I could get in Minseo's car. She'd been waiting in the parking lot, my self-appointed bodyguard. Can I talk to you? He asked. Just 5 minutes. Please. I looked at Taehyun, who looked like he wanted to argue but just nodded miserably and walked away to give us space. What do you want, Seo-jun? I want to explain why I did it. He ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time, he looked uncertain. Vulnerable. Not to excuse it. I know there's no excuse. But I need you to understand. I'm listening. My arms were crossed protectively over my stomach. Taehyun and I have always been compared. Our entire lives, we've been measured against each other. Who's smarter, who's more successful, who's better? Our parents did it. Our teachers did it. Everyone. He looked away. Taehyun was always the likable one. The charming one. People loved him effortlessly. I had to work for everything, every achievement, every relationship, every moment of connection. Despite myself, I felt a twinge of sympathy. But I pushed it down. 6 months ago, when I saw you two together, I saw the way you looked at him. Like he was your entire world. And I wondered, what would it be like to be looked at like that? Not because of what I'd achieved or how much money I made, but just because of who I was. His eyes met mine. So I started watching you. Learning you. And the more I learned, the more I realized you were everything I'd been looking for. Kind, patient, creative, genuine. You saw beauty in small things. You cared about people. So you decided to steal your brother's life? I decided to see if I could make you happy. He stepped closer. And I did Jai. Those dates we had, the ones where you laughed until you cried, where you told me your dreams and fears, where you let yourself be completely vulnerable, I made you happy. I saw it in your eyes. I thought you were Taehyun, I said, but my voice wavered. Did you? Really? His voice was gentle. Or did some part of you know something was different? That the connection felt deeper, more intense? That someone was finally really seeing you? I hated that his words resonated. Hated that he was right about some of those moments feeling different, feeling more. That doesn't make what you did okay. I know. He reached out slowly, telegraphing his movement, and placed his hand on my stomach. I should have moved away. I didn't. But if this baby is mine, and I think we both know it probably is, based on the timing, I want to be a real father. Not someone who pays child support and sees his kid every other weekend. I want the midnight feedings and the diaper changes and the terrible twos. I want all of it. Tears burned in my eyes. You took away my choice. I did. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make that right. But going forward, you have all the choices. I'm just asking you not to shut me out completely. He walked away, leaving me standing in the parking lot with my hand over his handprint on my stomach. Taehyun approached cautiously. What did he say? That he wants to be involved. That he thinks the baby is his. And what do you want? Taehyun's voice was small, broken. I looked at this man I'd loved for 2 years. This man who'd let his insecurities poison something beautiful. I want to know why you really let it happen. The real reason, Taehyun. Not the excuse about testing our relationship. He was quiet for a long moment. Because part of me wanted him to have you. Wanted him to finally get the thing he wanted more than success or money. Because maybe if he had that, he'd stop making me feel like I'm never enough. He laughed bitterly. Turns out I gave him exactly what he wanted and lost everything in the process. You didn't lose me by giving me away. You lost me by treating me like a prize in your brother competition instead of a person. I know. His eyes were red. I know, and I'm so sorry. I love you, Jaewoo. I've loved you since the moment you spilled coffee on yourself trying to impress me on our first date. I've loved every morning I woke up to your texts, every evening I got to hold you, every moment of our life together. That was real. Whatever my brother made you feel, what we had was real first. But was it? Or had I been falling in love with an idea of Taehyun while the real, flawed, insecure man hid behind a perfect facade? The 2 weeks waiting for results were the longest of my life. Both brothers tried to court me in their own ways. Taehyun showed up at my kindergarten with lunch, helped me grade papers, reminded me of our history together. Every shared memory, every inside joke, every promise we'd made about our future. Seo-jun sent thoughtful gifts, books about pregnancy, a journal for recording my thoughts, a playlist of calming music. He didn't push for time together, but he texted every day, "How are you feeling? Did you eat? Thinking of you." Minseo watched it all with growing concern. You know you don't have to choose either of them, right? You can co-parent without being romantically involved with anyone. I know. But you're considering it. Considering them. I didn't answer. Because she was right, and I hated myself for it. Finally, Dr. Kong called. Results are in. Can you come in tomorrow? Both brothers insisted on being there. Minseo insisted on coming too. So all 4 of us sat in that examination room, tension so thick it was suffocating. Dr. Kong opened the folder slowly. The results were difficult to determine initially because of the identical DNA. However, the epigenetic analysis showed distinct markers. He looked at me gently. Based on methylation patterns and the specialized twin differentiation testing, the biological father is Park Seo-jun. The room went silent. Taehyun made a sound like he'd been punched. He stood abruptly and walked out without a word. Seo-jun's hand found mine and squeezed. I let him, too numb to pull away. I'll give you both a moment, Dr. Kong said, stepping out discreetly. Jaewoo, Seo-jun's voice was thick with emotion. I know this doesn't fix anything. I know you're still hurt and angry and confused. But I promise you, I will be the father this baby deserves. And if you'll let me, I'll spend every day proving that what I feel for you is real. I looked at our joined hands, then up at his face, that face I'd loved when I thought it was someone else. I don't know if I can trust you, I admitted. I don't know if I can forgive what you did. Then don't. Not yet. Just let me try. Let me show you. Outside, I found Taehyun sitting on a bench, his head in his hands. When I sat beside him, he looked at me with devastated eyes. I lost you, he whispered. I lost you and the baby and everything that mattered. You lost me the moment you chose to test me instead of trust me, I said softly. This just made it official. Is there any chance? No. The word was gentle but firm. No, Taehyun. We're done. We've been done since the moment I learned the truth. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. Then he stood and walked away, and I watched the man I'd thought I'd marry disappear from my life. 3 months later, I was sitting in my newly painted nursery, one hand on my growing belly, watching the sunset through the window. Seo Jun was at a parenting class, our third one this month. He'd moved closer to my apartment, not next door but near enough to be present. He came to every doctor's appointment, every ultrasound, every moment I'd let him be part of. We weren't together. Not romantically. I'd made that clear. But slowly, carefully, we were building something. Trust in tiny increments. Honesty in place of deception. A foundation for co-parenting, at least. Sometimes, when he looked at me with those intense eyes, I felt an echo of what I'd felt 6 months ago. That connection, that pull. And it terrified me. Because how could I ever trust my own feelings again when they'd been so easily manipulated? But my baby kicked and I smiled and I thought, maybe I don't have to have all the answers right now. Maybe healing doesn't mean choosing between the man who betrayed me and the man who deceived me. Maybe it means choosing myself. Choosing my child. Choosing to move forward even when the path isn't clear. The door opened, and Seo Jun came in with dinner and a soft smile. How are my two favorite people? We're okay, I said. And for the first time in months, I meant it. We were going to be okay. Not perfect. Not healed. But okay. And sometimes that's enough.